You know, man, there's a lot of electricity running around these days, man. A lot of electricity running around. And when I say that, I mean kind of like more of a feel in the air about the automotive industry on a number of levels. Wouldn't you say?
I hate to say I told you so.
Yeah, that's right, man. We're going to get into some stuff like we already said, like you heard in the opening, that we're going to talk about the ever evolving and changing, like, I don't know, like it seems like every day there's more electric vehicle news going on, and the automotive industry is like, I don't know what to think of it right now. I don't know. Are they upside down trying to figure out which direction to go? I don't know.
Well,
see.
I mean, so I want to say it was our last podcast. These things all run together for me. So they all feel sort of like yesterday. But you said pretty recently, I don't know if it was the last show or not, but this whole GM thing. So you said this is coming. Now, to be clear, we recorded that, before GM made their announcement, so it was speculative on our part. But it turns out, Jay, you were right.
Yeah, and that was based on, by the way, just some observation of some of the. You don't make some of the moves that they made.
Yep.
When we podcasted about that, unless you have an intent to really dive deep into it. But boy, we didn't see this one coming. And,
yeah. So I mean, but let's just sort of explain. GM made an announcement less than a week ago that they plan to be exclusively electric in their vehicle offerings by 2035.
Yeah, it's just that's now. Hey, Keith, that's a long time from now.
And yeah, it's 14 years, right?
Right.
And then they want to be carbon neutral by 2040. So and I'm looking at the official GM News press release right here. And it's in their press release, it says General Motors, the nation's largest U.S. automaker, plans to be carbon neutral by 2040. The other news outlets picked up on the 2035 all EV side of this, and that's their headline.
Right. Yeah, the bottom line is, and I saw, the headline from CNBC, which I think is the story that you shared with me.
Right.
What's funny is that, and again, our current administration, our new administration, comes in the door and signs a lot of things, and we all know that the current administration is pro environment and is committed to zero emissions at some point. And so I think that GM is kind of riding that wave, and it's an opportunity to go ahead and just commit and get into it. I don't know how much of that is driven by that, but I think that it certainly opens the door for them to maybe a little bit more of encouragement for them to go ahead and stick with that plan and get going on it.
Yeah. So now,
without getting too political about it, you know what I mean. I'm not trying to go there, but
I'm gonna open a can of controversy here and just
go ahead, man.
Okay,
go ahead.
Now I'm just gonna point to things that other people have said, Jay. That way, like if people want to get upset, I can just blame somebody else, right?
Oh yeah, that's perfect, man.
So this is a theme for us. It's not going away, and this has come up multiple times in the past few weeks. I'll point most recently back to Bosch, where the chief executive at Bosch said, hey, we're not going all in on this battery technology because we're not convinced that it's actually carbon neutral. Right. And he laid out his case. And if you want to learn more, hear more detail on that story, go back and listen to our previous podcast, or we've got a YouTube video segment out on that very thing. Do you remember what podcast episode that was, or what it was titled?
Yes, I've actually got that up right here. Let's see.
I should know this stuff.
Well, we should, but we don't. We're so busy, man. We're like the I think it was the GM. Oh no, actually, it was it Toyota?
I think it
Toyota?
was. Yeah, so it may not.
Toyota, where the hell are you? And speaking
Right.
of Toyota, I want to bring that up because not only has that guy, that CEO said that,
Yeah. So
Toyota is saying the same thing.
So we got Bosch basically saying, hey, it is not carbon zero to run an EV because it, first of all, depends on where your electricity comes from. And we've said this many times. We'll go back and I'll point to it one more time. We did a podcast. We have a YouTube video segment on where the electricity comes from. It varies by state. It's not 100% one single source in any state in the United States. A lot of it is natural gas. Some of it's coal. Some of it's geothermal. Some of it's solar. Some of it's wind. Some of it's hydroelectric. Okay. But the point being that plugging your electric vehicle in and charging it up creates a carbon emission most of the time from somewhere. Okay.
That's exactly right.
So for GM to say, well, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2040, but we're going to have all electric vehicles by 2035. Okay, but that doesn't really tell us how you're going to be carbon neutral.
Right.
And so that's the problem that I sort of have with this. And then you get into a little bit of the whole, which we may want to save this for later, but the demand on the electric grid, which is going to be an issue if it isn't already.
It already is, yes.
Now, GM has said stuff in the past that they've, they're not saying. Here's what they're not saying. Sorry for stumbling around. They're not saying how they're going to get there, and they're just saying we plan to do this. They're not saying it's a mandate. In other words,
the company kind of collectively stated, though, characterized its 2035 EV goal.
Yeah,
it's an aspiration. Okay, it's citing regulations, infrastructure, and other factors need to come together for the plan to be achieved. So at least there is a smidgen of reality focus there. That okay, this is a goal, and everybody, please keep in mind that when you hear that, it's just like Gavin Newsom saying, we're banning all ICE vehicles by 2035. That's California. Now, it coming out of California is almost like a news story coming out of Florida. It has to be Florida because that's what happened.
Yeah,
this kind of stuff coming out of California is not like off the wall because they really do kind of go to some extremes in that state. They're like the first, and I've stated that over and over again.
Now, hold on. We can't blow right past that very insightful comment that you just made, which is, if it sounds super crazy, it probably came out of Florida, right? I mean, that's a gym, Jay, right? Yeah. So, I mean, good luck with this. Like, we just had a conversation yesterday, not on the air, but with Robert White, who we've had on the podcast before. He's with the RFA, which stands for
Renewable Fuels Association.
Renewable Fuels. Sorry. Thank you. And we were just talking around this whole electric only by 2045, and wasn't it you, Jay, that said this is not going to happen in our lifetime? It's not.
I don't see it in my lifetime. We had that discussion. I see these as really good goals, but this, it's a good plan and everybody, it has good intent. I get it. But I'm telling you right now that what they are speaking of today, dealing with the technology that they have on the table today, that it will be a completely different scenario by 2035 because the technology will have already changed.
Right.
So you have to take all of that into consideration. Batteries may no longer be a problem. So for somebody like Miss Cleo to come out and say, hey, there's not going to be any more gasoline engines in 2035, or there's not going to be enough electricity to power this stuff because of the battery. Well, we don't know that. So what I commend GM for doing, is sticking to their goals and really making an effort to really prove to people that, when you have a common goal and you work together in conjunction with people who invest into your company and they can get things done, technology kind of has a way of exponentially growing and advances those technologies. So don't rule it out, but at the same time, it is a little bit over the top thinking that by 2035 there's not going to be any gasoline or diesel engines on this planet. Because I have had that conversation with Miss Cleo, and I can tell you, she told me that there will be diesel engines and gasoline engines on this planet in 2035. You heard it here first. How about that?
不知道吗？喂。
So I think the point is, and I think you're right, this is a good start. This is a good. I'm going to use that one again and again. Get used to it, man. That's an oldie,
okay, well,
buddy.
You might want to turn it up for me. So.
Was it down a little?
You want me
bit.
To
I just do it on my own. What you talking about, Willis?
Yeah,
I can't do it. Like
I heard
Arnold
it,
did
I heard it, but barely.
Yeah.
But seriously though, I mean that's the truth, man. This is where it is that people need to not necessarily take it with a grain of salt. Pay attention to it because these are common goals. I mean, who would have thought that we'd have flying cars and Toyota's investing into them, man? I mean, there you go. I mean, it's happening.
And maybe the better approach is to say, we're not going to go all in on one technology. We're going to keep our options open, but we are going to try to move toward some better solutions.
That's
right?
kind of the theme of the day, I think. Today, what we're talking about, all of the subject matter is that. It's that. It's a moving target. It's a moving subject. It's just stuff, man, going on in this industry right now. But, the company did go on to say that the strong aspirations are important and inspirational, and I just kicked on that. But firm production plans and strong policies are what move the market and the climate. That was a statement made by a GM representative. Electric vehicles, including battery, electric, and fuel cell power vehicles, are currently a niche segment of the global automotive industry, estimated at less than 5% of sales by analysts. Keep that in mind, guys. That's 5%. That percentage will go up. And when we're talking about some things later on in this podcast, the main topic of the day, you'll see exactly where that's going to increase and how that's going to increase, why that's going to increase, and how impactful that's going to be on our, meeting that zero emission standard. So,
and you're on a roll today. You're dialed in.